Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Liz of LaDensercrotchets, and in this tutorial we're going to crochet this top right here. It's a cropped top which is an off shoulder and it has puff sleeves. Please like and subscribe, and let's get into the tutorial. The requirements for this tutorial are yarn, a medium weight yarn, a 4mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a darning needle, a stitch marker which is optional, and a measuring tape. Begin by taking your bust measurements and dividing it by 8. So I'm working a bust of 38. So I'll take 38 divided by 8. And this is going to give me around 4.75, I think, 4.75. And I'm going to round this off to 4.8. If your bust is 40, then you'll take 40 divided by 8, and this will give you 5. If your bust is, say, 42, then you'll take 42 divided by 8, and this will give you 5.2 something. You can round off to the nearest one decimal. So I'll be working with the 4.8, and this is in inches. Begin with a slip knot and chain 40. 40 is going to be the length of our top from the waist up to the armpit. For a chain of 40, this will be a top that is a bit long. If you want it to be super cropped, you can do 34 instead of 40. So I'm going to be doing 40 chains. I have my 40 chains ready, and I'm ready to begin row 1 of the top. So after you get your 40 chains, you're going to hold the 40th chain and chain 1 more, and then go into the 40th stitch with a single crochet. Then the next stitch is going to be a double crochet, followed by a single crochet into the next stitch, then a double crochet, then a single crochet into the next, double crochet, single crochet into the next, double crochet. So we're basically alternating between a single crochet and a double crochet. So you're going to keep alternating like this until you get to the end of the row. At the end of the row, the last stitch should be a double crochet. And my last stitch is going to be a double crochet, and row 1 is done. So we chain 1 and turn to begin row 2. The last stitch was a double crochet, and so we alternate. So the first stitch is going to be a single crochet. So where there was a double crochet, there is going to be a single crochet. The next stitch is a single crochet, and we're going to place a double crochet into that stitch. The next one is a double crochet, and it gets a single crochet. The next one is a single, so we place a double crochet, and we're just going to alternate the way we've been alternating between a single crochet and a double crochet. So double, single crochet, double crochet, single, and keep alternating till you get to the end of row 2. At the end of row 2, the last stitch is a double crochet, and there are our 2 rows done. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 3, and you begin row 3 again with a single crochet because the last stitch was a double crochet, followed by a double crochet, then a single crochet, then a double. And we're going to continue working like this, and I'll work for a total of 10 rows, and I want to achieve a width of 4.8. If your width is less than 4.8, you might need to work fewer rows, or you can work as you measure, and make sure that you're stretching out your work so that you get the correct measurement. This stitch is very stretchy, and if you do not stretch, you're going to end up with an oversized top. So make sure that you're completely stretching your work when measuring. I'm in row 3, and I'm going to work 7 more rows in order to get to 10, and then when I get to 10 rows, I'll come back and show you how to take the measurement of the width of the top. I'm I'm done with my 10 rows right here, and we're going to measure the width to determine whether I've hit 5. So without stretching, the measurement of this particular piece that I've done is around 3.5 inches, 3.5 right there. So I'm going to stretch this out, and it should give me 4.8. I should be at something close to 4.8, which is what I want. So when I stretch this out, it's going to almost 5 inches, which is okay, because 4.8 is close to 5, and so I'm going to work with the 5. Now we begin row 11. I'm going to begin row 11, and row 11 is going to begin with an increase. So chain 1 and turn. Into that first row, into that first stitch, place a single crochet, then place a double crochet, and place a single crochet into the same stitch. So you're placing a total of 3 stitches into that first stitch, and that is our first increase. And all the other stitches to the end will be just 1 stitch. So you're going to have a double crochet next, then a single crochet, and alternate to the end of row 11. Row 12 will be the same. We're going to work just 1 stitch into every of the stitches. So work row 11 and 12, and I'll meet you back here so that I can show you how to complete row 12. At the end of row 11, there's a double crochet, then chain 1 and turn. You're not increasing in row 12, and so we're just going to place 1 stitch into every stitch to the end. I'm in the last stitch where I placed 3 stitches, so you should ensure that you place 3 stitches here. So the first one is this one, which is a double crochet. Then the next one is a single crochet right here. And then the last stitch is a double crochet. And there is row 12 done. Remember, we are not increasing in row 12, but we increase in row 13. So chain 1 and turn. And we're going to work the increases until we have, sorry, let me show you where you are supposed to mark. We are working 10 rows. I already worked my 10 rows, and I'm going to mark the end of the 10 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So at this point where the 10th row ended, I'm going to place my stitch marker right there. And now I'm beginning row 13. And because I had 10 rows, I'm going to take the 10 rows minus 2 so that I get 8. And that means I'm going to be increasing until I have 18 rows. Into this first stitch, place a single crochet, a double crochet into the same stitch, and a single crochet. That's row 13. Then the next stitch is a double crochet, a single crochet, and alternate to the end. Then once you get to the end, you're going to chain 1 and turn and work row 14. And row 14, there'll be no increase. I'm coming to the end of row 14 right now, and I'm just going to work the remaining stitches. So at the end, we're going to have a double crochet, then a single crochet, and finally a double crochet. And that's row 14. Just to explain, if your first rows were 12, you're going to take 12 minus 2 to get 10. And my first rows with no increase were 10, and so I'm taking 10 minus 2 to get 8. And that means in this part of the increase, I should have 8 rows. And that will get me to a total of 18. So in row 15, I'll chain 1 and turn to begin row 15. And I'll begin row 15 with an increase. That means 3 stitches into the same stitch, single crochet, double crochet, and single crochet. Then the next stitch will be a double crochet, and the next one will be a single. And we're going to alternate to the end of row 15. Then we're going to work back row 16 without an increase, just placing 1 stitch into every stitch. And then I'm going to increase in row 17, and then I'll also work row 18. So keep going. I'll come back once I have my 18 rows, and then I'll show you what to do next. If your starting rows were 12, then you'll take 12 minus 2, which will give you 10. So this part of increase should have 10 rows. And so in total you'll have 12 plus 10, which will be 22. If your starting rows were 8, you're going to take 8 minus 2 to get 6. And this part of increase will have 6 rows. And therefore you'll have 6 plus 8, which is 14. I'm at the end of row 18. So that means I made increases in 4 rows because we are alternating. One row is an increase, the next one no increase. And I'm at row 18. I'm going to pull out this stitch marker from row 10 and I'm going to place it at the end of row 18. So right here. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn to begin row 19. So row 19 up to row 22, that is, we're going to work a total of 4 rows with no increase or decrease at all. And this is something that is standard for all the sizes. Regardless of the number of rows that you've worked or you started with, you're going to work 4 rows at this point. And so I begin row 19 with a single crochet. The next stitch will be a double crochet. And the next one will be a single crochet. Then a double. So just work your next row. It could be row 23, it could be whatever number, but mine is row 19 and I'm going to work row 19, 20, 21 and 22 because I want a total of 4. I'm done with my 4 rows. I'm done with my 4 rows with no increase, and therefore I'll pull this stitch marker and I'll place it at the end of the 4th row of non-increase. And I'm so sorry about the background noise. It's just that I can't help it. I live in a very hot place, which means I either switch on the fan or open the windows. The fan's noise is louder than the occasional noise from the outside, and therefore you'll have to bear with me. Maybe sometime we're going to get a soundproof room with AC, but until then, we move on regardless. So I'm at the end of row 22 and I'm going to begin row 23. Now row 23 is going to be a decreased row, and we increased for a total of 8 rows right here, and therefore on the part of decrease I also need 8 rows. If your part of increase was 10 rows, then the part of decrease is also going to be 10 rows. After chaining 1 and turning, I'm going to skip this first stitch, then I'm going to skip the second stitch, and I'll work a single crochet into the 3rd stitch, and that acts as our first decrease in row 23. Then the next stitch will be a double crochet, and the next one will be a single crochet. And for this remaining part, we're going to simply work 1 stitch into every of the stitches, and we are alternating as usual. So double crochet, single crochet on top of the previous double crochet, then double crochet, then single crochet, and then double crochet, and keep going to the end of row 23. Then at the end of 23, you're going to chain 1 and begin row 24. You're going to work back, and I'll meet you at a point right here so that I can show you how to complete row 24. I'm coming to the end of row 4 and I just have a few stitches remaining. I'm in my second last stitch, and the last stitch is supposed to be right here. And so instead of working at this point, I yarn over and work on this part right here, which is going to be a double crochet. And there we're done with row 24. So chain 1 and turn to begin row 25. Row 25 again is a decrease, and so we are skipping the first stitch, the second stitch, and work a double crochet into the 3rd stitch. And then we work a double crochet into the next, a single crochet, a double, single, double, and alternate to the end of row 25. Then we're going to work row 26 back, and row 26 does not have a decrease, and we're going to end row 26 the same way we've ended row 24. I'm almost done with row 26, and I'm in the second last stitch, which is a single crochet. The last stitch should be a double crochet right here, and instead of working at this point, I work at the far end right there with a double crochet, chain 1 and turn to begin row 27. Again, we reduce in row 27. So I'm going to reduce in row 27 and in row 29, and then I'll work up to row 30, and I'll meet you once I'm done with my 30 rows. I've done my decrease rows and I've marked the end of my decrease, which is my row 30, and row 31 and 32 are going to be rows of no increase and no decrease. So chain 1 and turn to begin row 31, and we begin with a single crochet in the first stitch, then a double crochet into the next, a single crochet into the third stitch, a double crochet into the fourth, and we alternate to the end. At the end, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and then we're going to work the next row back to this point. I'm done with row 32, and at this point I'm in the exact middle of my top, and that means the part that I'm going to work on this side should be completely identical to this side, which means I'll start increasing at this point. So I'll increase at this point until I have 8 rows with the increase, and we are increasing in the alternate rows, so that means I'll increase in row 33, then no increase in row 34, increase in row 35, no increase in row 36, and I'll increase until I have my 8 rows. And because I'm in row 32 plus 8, I should get to row 40. So I'll go up, just like on this side, go up, then remain constant for 4 rows, come down for 8 rows, and then work this last part, which is 10 rows with no increase. So chain 1 and turn to begin row 33. In that first stitch, work an increase, which is a single crochet. Into the same stitch we work a double crochet, and into the same stitch we work a single crochet. So remember, our increase is 3 stitches into that first stitch, then single crochet, double crochet, then single crochet, and then double crochet, and we work with alternate stitches to the end. Chain 1 at the end to begin the row 34, then come back the same way we did with the other increase. So increase till you get to, if you are increasing for 10 rows, increase for the 10 rows. If you are increasing for 8, you'll increase for 8. In my case, I'm increasing for 8 rows, and I should end at row 40 because I'm in row 33 now. So I'll increase in row 33, 35, 37, and 39. Then I'll meet you at the end of the 40th row. I'm done with my row 40, and this is where I'm at this point. So now I'm going to work this part with the 4 rows. Just mark the 40th row. So I'll work my 4 rows, then I'll work my 8 rows decrease, then I'll work my 10 rows with no increase or decrease, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done with the top. It's an easy pattern, and therefore whatever you did on this side is exactly what you're going to do on this other side. So keep going, and let's meet once we are done with the main part of the top, and then I'll show you how to attach the sleeves. So right here I'll begin with a single crochet, and because I'm not increasing, it's just 1 single crochet, then a double, and then the pattern continues. I went on to complete the other part of the top, and at this point we are done with the main part. And what we're going to do is an edging on this side. We're going to create the loops through which we're going to attach our straps, and to do that you chain 1 and turn, then begin with a single crochet in the first stitch, chain 2, skip 1 stitch, then single crochet into the third, and make 4 more single crochets for a total of 5. So that's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then chain 2. We are not skipping 2, we are skipping 1, and then 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then again chain 2, skip 1 stitch, then 5 single crochets. Chain 2, skip 1, followed by 5 single crochets. Chain 2, skip 1, 5 single crochets again. Then again we chain 2, skip 1, 5 single crochets, chain 2, skip 1, then we're going to have 1 single crochet and another one, so 2 single crochets at the end. Then we're going to chain 1 and turn. Into the first single crochet we're going to place another single crochet, then a single crochet into the next stitch. Into the chain stitch we're going to place only 1 single crochet and a single crochet on top of the previous single crochets. So we basically just placing 1 single crochet into every stitch till we get to this top part right here. Into the chain 2 stitches you're only going to place 1 single crochet, not 2, just 1 single crochet into every stitch, including on top of the chain. I'm in the last stitch where I'm placing 1 single crochet and the loops on this side are created. Then we're going to work an edging of single crochets all the way around to this part, and then we'll create loops on the other side. Then we'll do an edging on the bottom part of the top. So now we are doing the edging on the top part, and I'm at that corner stitch which I've already placed a single crochet, so I'm going to place 2 more single crochets into that same stitch. Then we have these stitches right here, you can see them. This was a double crochet row, so into this double crochet row I'm going to skip this space right here and I'll single crochet into the next space. Then I'll skip this, single crochet into the next, then into this next space, single crochet, then the next one we skip, then 1 and 2. So we are placing 2 single crochets into 2 consecutive spaces, then the third one we skip. So 1 and 2, skip this one, then 1, 2, skip the next, then 1, 2. So we are basically placing 2 single crochets into the double crochet rows and skipping the single crochet row. So 1, 2, we skip the next one, then 1, 2, skip this one, 2 single crochets into the double crochet row, 1 and 2. We are skipping the single crochet row, then 2 single crochets into the double crochet row, skip the single crochet row, then 2 single crochets into the double crochet row until you get to the corner where you started working the flat rows. Now at that corner, which is right here, I'm going to place 3 single crochets into the same stitch. So 1, 2 and 3. So we have 2 and 3. We are on the double crochet row, so we place 2 single crochets there, and then we skip the single crochet row, then 2 single crochet in the double crochet row. And at this point I'm at the other corner and I've already placed 1 single crochet right there, so I'll place 2 more for a total of 3. Then we're going to start going down on this part. The next row is a single crochet row which we are going to skip and place 2 single crochets in the double crochet row. Skip this, 2 single crochets next, skip this, so remember we are only skipping the single crochet rows, we're not placing a stitch on the single crochet row. When we get to the middle parts, we do not have to create corners like on this top part, so we just continue working into the double crochet rows, placing 2 single crochets there, skip this, then 2 single crochets into the double crochet row. Then we're going to skip the single crochet row and place 2 single crochets into the double crochet row. Skip this. Right here we place 2 double crochets, 2 single crochets, that is, skip, 2 single crochets, and now we are at the corner, a corner like this other one right here. So into this corner at this point we place 3 single crochets into the same stitch. That takes us to the double crochet row, which gets 2 single crochets. I worked on this corner and then I went down all the way to this part right here. And at this point I have 1 stitch remaining to get to the corner stitch, and therefore I'm taking off my hook at this point. I'll not cut off the yarn, I'll leave it like that. Then I'll get another strand of the yarn, make a slip knot, Then attach it on this end, on the first stitch with a slip stitch. Chain 1. Then I'll go back into that stitch with a single crochet. Then make a single crochet into the next stitch. Then we chain 2. After chaining 2, we're going to skip 1 stitch, then 5 single crochets. Chain 2, then skip 1, and then 5 single crochets. So just like we created the hose or the loops on the other side, that's the same way we're going to do that. And we're going to go until we get to this corner and then cut off the yarn at this point. So let me just continue creating the loops. I have 1 stitch remaining, 2 stitches remaining, so I'm going to skip this one and single crochet into the last stitch, chain 1, and then I'll cut off the yarn at this point. Then I'll go back to the loop that I left hanging right here, and now I'll do the edging going down to this part of the top. So I've done my 2 single crochets, so I'm skipping this, and into this corner stitch I'll place 3 single crochets. The next stitch is a chain 2, and into that stitch I'll place just 1 single crochet, then 1 single crochet on top of the previous single crochets, which were 5, so 5 single crochets. And then into the next chain 2 stitch, only 1 single crochet. Then we're just going to continue just like we did with the other side. All the stitches get a single crochet, including the chain 2 stitch, which will also get a single crochet. So keep going till you get to this corner, and I'll meet you there. I'm at the corner stitch at the bottom of the top, and we're also going to do a edging at that bottom. And so at that corner stitch I have 1 single crochet, so I'll place 2 more to make it 3 and turn to the bottom part. Then I'll skip this row, go onto the double crochet row and place 2 single crochets. Next we have the single crochet row, and we're going to skip it. Then we'll place 2 single crochets into the double crochet row. Skip the single crochet, 2 single crochets into the double crochet row. Skip the single, then place 2 into the double crochet row. And we're going to do this till we get to the end. We have single crochet rows and double crochet rows, and on the edging we are not placing any stitch into the single crochet row. So we are skipping the single crochet rows and placing 2 single crochets into the double crochet rows. Then I am in the last stitch, I'll place a single crochet right there, then slip stitch onto the first stitch on that edging, slip stitch, chain 1, and then cut off the yarn. And we are done with the main part of the top now. Now we need to do the sleeves that make the top completely different and awesome. So let's do the straps, and we start by getting the yarn and do a slip knot. Then from this edge I'll count 2 rows of the, forgetting about the edging, I'll count the first and the second row, then right there on that stitch. So I'm counting 2 rows of the main part. So there was the first stitch of the edging, the second, the third, and then the fourth is where the second row ends. Attach with a slip stitch and chain 40. Then I'll get this first corner right here. We have this corner and this other one. So in this first one, I'll attach the chain with a slip stitch. then chain 1 and cut the yarn. Then we come to this other side, on this corner, on this side, make a slip knot, attach the yarn at the corner, slip stitch, chain 40. Then we're going to count 4 stitches from this end, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then on to the 4th one, attach with a slip stitch at that point, chain 1, and cut off the yarn. So we have the points where the sleeves are going to be attached. So I'll be showing you how to attach the sleeves next. I did one of the sleeves, and right here is the outcome. I also went ahead to attach one of the straps, and I'm going to show you how to quickly make the other sleeve together with the other strap on the other side. So make the slip knots, get this other part of the sleeve and attach in the middle part, which is this part right here, attach with a slip stitch. Then chain 2. The chain 2 is just our turning chain, it's not a stitch, but then we're not going to place a stitch on this point. We'll place it while we come to the end of the row. And I'm going to be working the sleeves using double crochet stitch. So I'll yarn over, go into the next stitch with a double crochet, the next stitch with a double crochet, and I'm just going to place 1 double crochet into each of the stitches. When I get to the chain stitch, I'll also place 1 double crochet into the chain stitches, and then I'll continue to the end or to the point where I attached my yarn. So just 1 double crochet into every stitch. I'm working over my tails just to ensure that I do not have a lot of work weaving in the ends at the end of the project. So I'm at the chain stitch, or I'm at the chain where the chain begins. So I'll yarn over, go into the first chain with a double crochet, and then I'll place a double crochet into each of the chains. I'm done placing a double crochet onto each of the chains, so I'll turn over and continue working on the stitches at this point till I get to the end. And I'll work at this point where I attached the chain, and then onto the next stitch, and to the next, and I'll work a double crochet to the end of the row. I'm at the end, and we are going to place our last double crochet into this stitch where we have the chain 2 stitch. Remember, I mentioned that the chain 2 is not a stitch and it's just a turning chain because we are working rows as we turn. So to complete this row, we're going to slip stitch on top of the first double crochet right here. Slip stitch, then chain 2 and turn to begin row 2. So I used to call these rounds, but I learned that if you're turning at the end of the round, then it's not a round anymore, it's a row. So at this point, I'll not place a stitch, I'll move on to the next stitch, but then when I'm coming to the end, I'll place a double crochet onto this side, but not onto this other side. So I'll yarn over and go into the next double crochet with a double crochet, then the next one will get a double crochet, and all the stitches to the end of row 2 will get a double crochet. At the end of the row, I'm going to place a double crochet into that stitch that has the chain stitch. then slip stitch on top of the first double crochet right here to complete the row, then chain 2 and turn. So we work row 3 the same way we worked row 2, and we're going to repeat these rows for a total of 12 rows. So work your 12 rows. If you want your sleeves a bit longer, you might need to work more rows, but don't make them too many. Don't go beyond 15. I think 15 will be enough if you do not want long sleeves. But then if you want long sleeves, then you can work for as long as you get the length of your sleeve. That is, if you want a long sleeve. But if you want mid sleeves, then don't do more than 15 rows. I'm done with the 12 rows on the sleeve, and this is how it looks like. And you want it to look like this so that it fits well. And therefore we're going to work 2 rows of reduction, and then we're going to do an edging with single crochets. So start by chaining 2 and turn. Then we're going to work the first double crochet into the next stitch, and then a second double crochet into the next stitch. In the next 2 stitches, we're going to join them together for a reduction. So yarn over, go into that stitch, pull a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Do not complete the double crochet, then yarn over, go into the next stitch, pull a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, pull through all the 3 loops on the hook. And there we have our reduction. Then the next 2 stitches will each get 1 double crochet. And then the next 2 will be joined together to make 1. Then 2 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. Then the next 2 work a reduction. Then 2 double crochets into the next 2 stitches, 1 into each. Next is a reduction. So we're going to keep alternating with 2 single crochets, 1 decrease, 2 double crochets, 1 decrease, 2 double crochets, 1 decrease to the end of the row. So 1 and 2, then a decrease, then 1 double crochet, the next double crochet, then the next 2 is a decrease. At the end, I have 2 double crochets remaining, and I'll work a decrease right there. Then complete this row by slip stitching on top of the first double crochet of that row. Then chain 2 and turn. Again, we're going to work another decrease, just like we've worked the previous one. So just 2 double crochets in the next 2 stitches. Then join the next 2 with a decrease. I just worked the last decrease and I have 1 stitch remaining, so I'll just place a double crochet into that last stitch, then slip stitch to complete the row, and then chain 1. We are done with the decrease. We are doing the edging with the single crochets, and from this row until we complete the sleeve, we are not going to be turning. So I'll place a single crochet into that same stitch where the chain 1 stitch is, then a single crochet into all the stitches till you get to the end of this row. This is row 15 of the sleeve. So just go on, place 1 single crochet into each of the stitches. At the end, slip stitch on top of the first single crochet of that row, chain 1. We are not turning, so place a single crochet into that first stitch and then place a single crochet into each of the other stitches. I'm in row 2 of the single crochet rows, and I'm going to work a total of 5 rows of single crochets without turning. So go ahead and work row 2, row 3, row 4 and 5. Then I'll show you what to do next. At the end of row 5, slip stitch, chain 1 and cut off the yarn. When you're done with the sleeve, pull through and fasten. So we're going to be weaving in all those ends that we have. I only have the ones on the sleeve because I worked over the others, and this one at the bottom right here. So now let's attach a strap. As you can see, the sleeve goes to one of these corners and the strap goes to the other corner. We have the sleeve on this corner and we're going to have the strap on this other corner. As we attach the strap, I'll not be using a single strand, but then I'll be doubling my strands so that I can have a thicker strap. After doubling the strands, I'll make a slip knot. Then get the corner, and I'm going to attach at this point right here, just so that we do not have the strap hanging loosely on the top. So I want it to be seated well in place so that it does not pull the top too much. So that's why I'm attaching at this point. You can attach wherever you feel is comfortable for you. Then I'm going to make a chain of between 200 and 250. Determine the length of the strap that you want, but just make sure that it's over 200 chains. So I have 2 chains. I'm going to chain up to 220, just like I chained for the other one. I have my 220 chains, so I'll just cut off the yarn at that point and pull through. Then on this strap, I'll tighten it, then make a knot that is very close to the stitches and make it tight. Then I'll get my pair of scissors and cut off the remaining tail. Don't cut too close to the knot, like that, and do the same to the other side. Then I'll get my darning needle and I'm going to use it to weave in these hanging strings right here and on these other ends. When weaving in your tails, you want to make sure that you're weaving them in on the inside of the top. So this one is on the outside, and so I'll put it in so that it goes to the inner side of the top, and then I'll weave it inside the stitches. You want to ensure that the tails are in between the stitches and they are not showing on the right side of the top. Then I'll cut off the tail that remains, and that's what we have. Do the same for the other side. After weaving in all the tails and attaching the straps, this is how the back part of the top is going to look like, and this is the front part. So thank you so much if you stuck around to the end of this video. If you've liked it, kindly leave a comment, like the video, and share. If you're not subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe. If you get to recreate this, tag me on my social media pages and I'm going to repost you. See you in the next tutorial.